Life and Times of Guitareo continues.
Absolutely. Cool. Oh, I like that intro.
Oh, well,
we should
it's an accident. I was thinking about a Galactic Cowboy song, and I was like, oh yeah.
I'm not familiar.
It's Life and Times.
Okay, cool.
This guitar's out of tune, and I just tuned it.
I was gonna say something. Oh no. Okay, well I'll let you tune it. Welcome here. I am back replacing Chelsea.
Yep.
And we're doing another Q&A today.
Cool.
Should be fun.
Q&A
today. So before we'll do a little play thing, but before we do that, let you guys know, get your questions in now, so we have something to answer.
Something to do.
So for those of you guys that are members, just click on the question box below, send in your question down there. It's very simple. You can send them in the chat too. I'll be watching chat. And is that about it?
I think so. I'm sure I'll think of something after we start playing, but whatever.
Okay. We literally came up with this like 10 minutes ago, and it sounds pretty cool.
So how quiet can you play?
Yeah. I was like trying to listen because I got it in my ears. It's like I can't hear it anymore.
That was fun. Like the first I guess the first half of the little solo section there, I was trying to go off more of like chord changes. Mm-hmm. And then the second half, like when I went up a little higher, I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna cut loose, minor pentatonic, and let my ear lead me to the right note.
Yeah.
And it worked out both ways. So
they both sounded good.
It's a good way to experiment with different ways of improvising, which I don't know if you saw the thread in the forum about improvisation.
Okay, improvisation.
It was by Cretaceous or Holder in the forum. And if you haven't read that, go read it. There's a lot of things there. I got really philosophical and on my soapbox about improvising. I was like, this is exactly what I think, and good luck for the rest of your life.
Improvising is a lifelong endeavor,
exactly.
man.
That was kind of the whole point too. I was like, these are all the elements that most guitar players don't think about.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, form, or fashion. If you concentrate on one of them too much, you're going to end up sounding academic or really mechanical.
Totally. It's a weird thing because it's like I find music is. I mean, when you break it down, it's math, right? That's the whole idea.
Yeah, vibrations.
But when you kind of approach vibrations, when you start breaking it down like in a human form, like when you're actually like playing and stuff, it becomes like way more artistic and like you're not overthinking everything. Like you're not thinking that hard when you're playing stuff. You're just kind of letting stuff kind of flow. So it's interesting how that happens. You know what I mean? It's some very interesting amalgam of things. I actually like, that's great background music for me, getting philosophical about it.
But anyway, go check it out. I can't remember what it's called, but it'll be really obvious. It's like one of the top on the first page of the forum.
Cool. I'll check that out too. I think I read it. How long ago was it posted?
Like day before yesterday or yesterday.
Okay, I've been away, so I haven't.
Yeah, Andrew's all refreshed and whatnot. He's been on vacation.
I am refreshed. Yeah. Well, let's jump into some questions.
Cool.
This one is from David L., the very first question here. While researching acoustic guitars to purchase, I read many reviews on various guitars. Some stated that the guitar improved over time being played. Is this really true? Is it because the vibration opens and loosens up the grain of the wood, thereby creating more resonance and more of a different sound?
I answered this in the forum today, but it'll be good to have you here because you're a gearhead to talk about this. And this is like, we could talk about this for probably literally 20 minutes.
I'm sure
between Andrew and I.
Yeah.
But I'll let you go ahead and get started with it, and then I'll throw in my 2 bits.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like, I like all of the materials that guitars are made of are natural materials, and so they flex and they dry and they react to all these different temperatures and all that kind of stuff. And I've found over time, acoustic guitars especially do start to sound better and better as they get broken in. The same actually goes for electric guitars and stuff too. Which just, I think, like, let me just make sure I'm answering your question. Improve over time.
You can even pop it to the forum. I think it's a little more detailed.
Is it? Okay, I'll jump on. I'll let you talk for a second and I'll jump.
I see 2 things as far as a guitar, quote unquote, opening up. One is the top of your guitar is like a speaker cone. And the more it loosens up, and speakers have a break-in time, right?
They do.
Same thing. And then the second thing is the finish on the guitar, how much it allows it to do that. My Taylor, to me, it sounds the same as it did the first day I got it, and it's probably 10 years old. But that thing is coated in like UV plastic, so it's pretty much vacuum sealed on one side of the guitar. A Martin or Collings, on the other hand, has an organic finish on it.
Yeah, oil or nitro or something like that.
And over time, that's supposed to like sink in and become part of the guitar and allow it to breathe and open up more. That's why you hear people saying, "Oh, that old Martin sounds just ridiculous."
Because it's an interesting thing because they actually honestly do sound better. Like the really old vintage ones, they do.
Like the old vintage ones, like this guitar is ridiculously loud and very open. But like I have nothing to compare to. I wasn't there when it was made. That's the only unfortunate thing, right?
It's interesting though. I think part of it too, and this is a theory that I've heard before, has to do with when the wood is sourced for guitars, all that kind of stuff, they dry it out. A lot of it's found in bottom of lakes or whatever, and they dry the crap out of it, and then they make guitars out of it. But what happens is the wood continues to dry for the rest of its life. And the idea is that the absolute driest possible wood is what makes stuff sound more and more open. And so these guitars that not only were they made, I mean, at this point, 100 years ago, they were also made from wood that was like maybe 100 years before that. So this stuff that's just crazy old and has been dry forever. That's one theory that I've heard as well.
One of my, this is gonna sound bad, but it's not. One of my favorite adjectives to describe a bad sounding Les Paul is sappy, because they sound wet and heavy.
Okay, yeah.
Like the opposite is true. If you have a really good sounding Les Paul, they're usually really light.
Yep.
And they're usually really open and kind of airy sounding, but they still have a lot of chunk in them, right?
Right.
To me, that has something to do with it too.
Yeah, I like this. The speaker cone thing is pretty accurate too. It's that break in. The vibrations definitely make the guitar sound better. I don't know if any new guitar I've ever had, there was always a break-in period. Like feel, I think matters a lot, and feel breaks in a lot. You'll notice.
Yeah, like especially like.
Yeah, big time. I mean, I think all my guitars except this one have the finish knocked off the back. But also just getting that little bit of grime like in your frets and on your fretboard makes everything feel smoother to me. I don't know why.
Especially the edges, like if you don't have rolled edges.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a follow-up question from David L. that I'll grab here. So, does the material of the top of the guitar body matter more than the back and sides in the tonal quality? Is it depth of sound or quality or quantity of sound? How much difference is there for solid wood versus laminate back and sides, in your opinion, for sound? Does the fretboard material matter in the sound or quality or quantity, or is it just looks?
I have a good analogy for this. If you're recording somebody that's singing, like a vocalist, the singer is the top of the guitar, and the back and sides are the room in the microphone. So like I think he gets most of the characteristics and the quality of the tone from the top, and then the back and sides is like the room. It's really going to color the tone and give it some other characteristics. Same thing with a mic and a room. If you're recording a vocalist, that person's going to sound like that person no matter what. But what back and sides you put on it will affect it. So.
Yeah, there's great sounding guitars with solid tops and laminate back and sides. I've played unbelievable ones. I'm trying to remember which one.
My Yari's laminate back and sides.
Sounds great.
And it's quieter. It doesn't have as much bass as that guitar, but it has more mids.
Right. And I think the top, it's almost always worth it to go solid if you can, because it's very noticeable, the difference.
Unless you live in a rainforest or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
or
no,
desert,
that might make a difference for sure, because it would be more protected. And as for fretboard materials, yeah, it does make a difference.
I think it does.
I think with acoustic guitars, there's not a lot of variance in fretboard material, is there?
Not generally. It's
like
usually
ebony,
rosewood or
rosewood?
ebony. Right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Like 90% of the time, it's rosewood or ebony.
From what I've seen, yeah.
And to me, that's more of a feel thing than anything.
There is a difference. I wouldn't make my decision based on that difference.
No,
It's so small.
I did not consider that at all when I had for my acoustics.
Yeah, I even for electrics, which I find I notice it a lot because maple to rosewood is actually a significant difference.
Yeah.
And even then, I just would go by looks.
If I could change all of my electric guitars to maple fretboards, I would.
Really, you like
just
maple
because
more?
I like the feel, not for tone, just for feel. It feels harder to me.
Yeah.
Because I have really hard fingernails. If you look at my other guitar, I have like gouges, divots in the fretboard.
Yeah.
And maple just feels harder, like when I do hammer-ons.
Yeah. It's also got finish on it.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of them, which
adds
to that. But when that finish starts to rub off in those spots, man, that looks so cool. Oh, old tellies from like the 50s that have like where you can see all the finger
that
marks.
heavy bola in the fretboard.
Yeah, it's a good way to explain it. Yeah, I love the look of that, man. It's so cool. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about that for quality or quantity. A big thing is, I mean, when you're talking about quality and quantity, solid back and sides and top and a bigger body are going to project probably the most sound.
The difference between a spruce top and a cedar top are quite profound to me too. Like if I'm doing fingerstyle stuff, I prefer a cedar top.
Which is pretty normal in like classical guitars, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You don't see it as often in regular.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder to find, especially nowadays. Like I looked at a Taylor 714s yesterday, which used to be notorious for having cedar tops. Not anymore. I think, I forget what series, they knocked it down to like a 5 series or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
So I was a little disappointed, Taylor. Just saying. Because that's like one of my number one acoustic guitars of all time, which is another post in the Guitareo forum. What's your dream guitar? I had to list like 6 for my dream acoustic guitar. That one's one of them, my Yari's one of them, and then there are like 4 other ones on there. And that was one of them, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah. Okay, onward and forward. This is Catman. Who was the talented young lady you had on last week who can play in my band anytime?
That was my wife, and I am in her band. She is the boss when it comes to
That's awesome.
like gigs and stuff. Like I'll show up to a gig with her. I'm like, she's the boss. I just backing her up. I don't have to worry about it.
Isn't it sometimes a nicer position to be in, though?
Yeah,
I find.
I like it better just because I don't have to deal with so much. All I have to do is concentrate on playing guitar and making that person look good and supporting them, right?
I remember an interview with John Mayer this was when remember when he lost his voice? Do you remember that?
No, I
Do you
never
follow
even
him
heard
much?
that.
So he had a node on his vocal cords. And he couldn't sing it was a year or 2 years or something, so he couldn't put out any music. And then when he came back, he had to like rebuild his voice from the ground up. So it was the country album he did was like in and around that. That's why his voice kind of sounded different. Anyways,
Interesting.
but one of the things he was doing was he was going on stage and playing like electric guitar as the lead guitar player for some other like groups and like special
why
events and
not?
stuff. Pardon?
Why not?
Yeah, exactly, right? And so I remember him saying, he said, I actually sometimes prefer not being the guy steering the ship. He's like, I can concentrate on my guitar playing,
it's just so
hang
nice.
out. If I have to, I walk up to the mic and I do a little background vocal, and then I walk back, I hang out with the band, and it's like, it's kind of true. I'm a guitar player in a band too. I don't front my band, and it's like, it is kind of nice. Yeah.
Anyway, go to chelseaamber.com and then just look up Chelsea Amber on Facebook.
Nice.
You'll see her again soon. Sooner-ish, I guess.
She's always welcome to come take my place anytime.
That's right.
We have one more question in here. So, Chelsea is much better looking than Andrew. I agree.
I agree with that.
It would be weird if you said it the other way around. Okay. Yeah, this is one more question. If we don't get any more questions, maybe we can talk about some other stuff, but feel free to send in more questions by the time we get to the end of this one. So, Beechnut asks, do you have a technique for holding your thumb so that you don't pass the note when sliding? Especially tricky when sliding using the G and B strings from 12 to 14.
For my thumb, no, but for my face, I do. Like anytime I'm sliding, say I want to go to the 10th fret, I look there before I get there, and that helps a lot. If you're just doing like this and you follow your hand up, it's gonna be a lot harder to hit it. But if you're like this and you look up and do it, let me see what I do with my thumb. No, not really. I miss it that time. Not really. I mean, thumb is just kind of gliding on the back of the fretboard. Yeah. There you go. See, that's pretty good.
Oh man, but I had to do it a couple times.
That's fine though, but that brings up a good point. Well, I don't know if you'll be dealing with this beach now, but if you're flopping back and forth between guitars, there are different scales, then it might be an issue. Because this is a short scale, but I have been playing this guitar a ton lately. So, like if I was on my Strat or something, I might be like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah, because the distance between the nut and the bridge are different on longer scale instruments, shorter scale instruments. Yeah.
I don't know if that has anything to do with fret spacing or not, but it feels different. That's my point.
I believe it would. Okay. Yeah, I believe it would. Follow-up question here. Do you put different brands of strings on your guitars for sound? Have you ever used DR strings?
I have used DR strings on my electric a couple of times. I like them just fine, no better or worse than anything else out there. I do use different brands on, especially as of late. I've been using the Roto Sounds on my electric.
That's right, yeah.
Because they last longer because of the packaging, not because the strings are any better. They have a little silica package and a vacuum packed package, which means until you open the package, they don't start oxidizing as much as other strings. So
they are going to last a little bit longer.
They last a little bit longer. It's like if I keep a set of strings on my electric for a week with any other brand that's not coated, then like I would get a week out of it before I'm like, I should change these. With the Roto Sounds, I get probably 2 weeks.
Right.
If I'm playing that guitar a lot.
That makes sense. I mean, that can be worth it because do they cost a little bit more or are they about the same?
They're about
the same. Competitive with the other ones?
$7.50.
Canadian.
Yeah, Canadian, so probably $5 or $6.
Okay.
I did try them on my acoustic this week, and no difference. I don't know what the deal is, so that kind of shoots my theory out of the water a little bit. Maybe I didn't wash my hands enough before I played my other acoustic. We'll see. I'll have to do further testing.
I will mention about DR strings. So I pretty much at this point just use Guitareo, and it's more just because they were what everybody else was using. They were accessible, so I just switched to them. But I was using DR pure nickel strings for the longest time.
I like the way those feel.
For a full year, they felt amazing. They sounded so cool because I played them on my my blue guitar that you guys might sometimes see me use, and it's got a Telly bridge pickup, and those are particularly bright.
Yeah.
And I love the sound of a back pickup on a Telly, so I use that pickup a ton. So I was like, maybe I can knock down the treble frequencies like a little bit, because you can't really do it necessarily if it's a really bright guitar with pedals and an amp. There's like a brilliance that stays there with a lot of those types of guitars. And so I switched to those strings, sounded awesome, but I noticed I would go out of tune a lot more. I couldn't figure out why, and it turns out what was happening is inside the wound strings, the actual core, so there's like a plane like this inside and then it's wound, was slipping inside the winding. Yeah.
Is it because of the material?
It's because of the material and the way that they make them. So I think it's because, it was explained to me, something about the way that the inside sits inside of the winding in the pure nickel strings, it's like perfectly loose. So they have to do it really tight, but what it can cause is like on a really thick E string, it can move around.
I wonder if that's why they do hex cores on some strings.
It creates like more friction so that it's,
that
it's
makes
less
sense.
likely
I always
to
wondered
slip.
about that. I was like, it doesn't seem like a hex would vibrate as naturally and freely as much.
Yeah, I would be curious. We'd have to, one time we should do like a full test, of like a bunch of strings. I mean, it'd be fun. But it actually makes me sad because I loved those strings so much. I bought like, I probably bought 50 packs of them that year.
If money wasn't an issue, I would do the Guitareo NYXLs all the time and the Guitareo EXPs. Yeah. Those are my favorite strings that I found. But I changed strings so much that I would go broke, man. So.
Especially, I mean, if you're white, so they're coated, right?
They're coated,
So you're gonna get how many more plays out of them?
Probably twice as much as you normally would.
Yeah. So even that, it's not really worth it, eh? Yeah. It's tough. I love coated acoustic strings when I'm not playing acoustic a ton. Awesome. When I'm playing acoustic a ton, I tend to like uncoated a little more. They just sound more. There's like a special thing that coated strings do tonally that you can notice.
Yeah, it's different. I've gotten to where like I can change strings so fast on acoustic. I just 5 minutes I'm done.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I played acoustic beforehand so little that I would rarely ever change my strings but nowadays I do a lot more. I'm still slow though. Okay, let's see. I don't see any more questions in here, but maybe I'm gonna look here. Do you find new strings tinny?
Yeah, for about the first day.
Yeah. That's when I like them the most. After about 5 minutes of break-in, that's the sweet spot.
It depends on the guitar and the situation. I mean, if I'm recording, I'm very like intentional about, okay, I'm gonna play these for a day, then play, or I'm gonna play right away if I want something real bright and like really attacky. So on acoustic, if I could keep them like they're out of the package, well, it's not true. Depending on the guitar. If I could keep them out of the package like they would be.
Sounds awesome.
On the RE, 1 day old, 1 or 2 days old.
Okay, yeah.
This guitar, like these strings aren't terrible, they're not bad, but like
I see a little bit, but not.
Yeah, I do note it. Like I'm like, if I'm gonna record with this, I would have to go get a new set and put it on, just because this guitar is so dark naturally.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I like one of those obsessive people. Like I think I explained to you, I do that run under the string thing, and if I notice any bumps, especially at the beginning, you got the black stuff from that.
A little bit, yeah.
If that happens, or I notice any bumps, it's like they're done.
I usually don't even bother with that unless I'm like, okay, I'm recording, and they're starting to.
Yeah.
Right. And then I'll whip out some WD-40 and clean them off.
You're a greater man than I am, Nate. Wow. Here's a couple more questions that came through. Beachnut, do some guitars play better with different strings?
It's a tough question to answer. It's so subjective. Like this guitar is, I guess, a good example because right now I have 11s on this, which I've never done ever on any electric in my entire life.
Right. Yeah.
But I like the way it feels because they feel like 10s on a Strat.
Correct.
Because it's a shorter scale. Mm-hmm. It sounds better too. Like normally if I did this, here I'll turn this off and let you hear it. Normally if I strum that hard, it would sound like this with 10s on this guitar because it's blasting out, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of subjective and it's kind of relative to which guitar you're playing. Mm-hmm. But and same thing goes for acoustic. If you have a Fossa bronze or bronze on there, it really depends on if you want a brighter sound or like a more light and airy sound.
Yeah.
It just depends on your personal preference for what you're doing. If you're playing fingerstyle, if you're doing a lot of strumming stuff, if you're playing metal, if you're playing blues where you want like a really fat mellow tone like you were talking about with Pure Nickel.
Correct.
The answer is it depends, and I'm sorry to give you that, but
it not only does it depend, but it comes down to what you like too. Because it's like there's no rule when you say fingerstyle. You can do both.
What kind of fingerstyle?
Right? Yeah, and you can, and even then, even inside those mini subgenres, you could totally do both if you like one sound more than the other, right? I just find a big thing that I like is thicker strings. If you pick really hard, totally works better because you don't go sharp all the time. Right. That was a big issue that I had, and the same thing like you were just explaining, where when you pick harder, they'd like blast out, like you're saying, and also shorter scale length go up. Usually, the exact tension match is like between half and a whole like jump up, so 10.5s would technically be the same on a shorter scale.
Right.
But obviously that's not always realistic. I think Guitareo makes like a 10 and a half.
I don't care enough about it.
Exactly. So I've recently switched to 11s on just everything, and it's comfy as heck. I'm not going to complain. Another question here from Beachnut. Do you ever keep your guitar in the case?
If I know I'm not going to be playing it for a while. Like that guitar, I literally just took out of the case before this live lesson to throw on the wall because the wall needed something. I know I wasn't going to be playing it over the weekend since Friday, and I probably won't be playing it until like, I don't know, Thursday. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go put it back in the case. If I know I'm not going to be playing it for a day or two, then I put it up.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Like this guitar, except for transport, has been left out on the stand for the last 2 weeks at home.
Yeah. I do the same thing at my house. You
got wall hangers, right?
Yeah, I hang them all up on the wall. The one thing that I will mention is if you have wall hangers or any stand for your guitar, if it's a guitar that has like a nice finish on it, make sure you put like polish cloths.
Yeah.
Because they can actually wear away.
I've seen, there was a custom shop painted Gibson SG.
Okay.
Like blue metallic. And it was a Guitar Center when I was working there.
Yeah.
And it just ate the finish right off. It's like a
That's so
$5,000
sad.
guitar.
That's so sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so. My other guitars are fine, but this one I have to put a polish
Because
cloth.
that's nitro finish, right?
It's and it's like a very light version of it too.
That's
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
To me, like this guitar is covered in plastic.
Yeah, for sure.
And I there's no way that can't restrict the sound of it.
Yeah.
That guitar is not, like you're saying, it's really nice, expensive, nitro finish, which lets it vibrate more. That is a loud guitar.
It's
man.
crazy loud. Like even when I do like what I was doing before, where I was like
was like,
banging on it like that, it's like
like a kick drum.
super loud. Yeah, it's cool. It's the thing is it's not the best like folk guitar ever, you know. But
It's a great bluegrass guitar.
if only I played bluegrass.
There you go.
I gotta learn. Let's see here. Because he's concerned about dust in semi-hollows. That's the mojo, man. You put that in there, just makes the guitar sound better.
I wouldn't worry about dust too much. You can always
Blow it out.
blow it out with some compressed air and take a vacuum to it once a year or something like that. That thought's actually never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
And this is a hollow body too.
Especially, I mean, if it's sitting up, you're not gonna get it that bad, I don't think. I don't know. I've always said like I let my guitars get dirty. I get the sweat and the grime in there, and there's blood in some of them, and
I clean mine once a year, whether they need it or not. Like thorough cleaning. So just depends.
Okay, I don't see any more questions in there. Is there anything else you just want to like talk about, guitar related? What have you been working on?
I started. I watched a Beatles documentary this past weekend, and it motivated me. Just like I want to learn a Beatles tune, but I want to do it finger style, you know, with alternating bass on the thumb and the melody on the top. So I'm doing a video like documenting this progress. I'm gonna do yesterday, like full. Oh, I thought you were playing.
What, is that the song? Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. But I'm gonna do like a little vlog of how I come up with an arrangement for a song that I want to do this with it, and then you're gonna watch me like struggle through it and practice, and finally the end product will be like, okay, I can actually play this, and then I'll show you how to play it. So I thought that would be pretty fun, just so you can see that, you know, not everybody, when you see a video polished of something on Guitareo that's being played, I didn't just look at it and be like, oh, practice it for a day and then do it, right? But it's a good process, and anybody can do it. Like if you know your basic open chords, you have a little bit of finger style technique going for you. You can do that with any song, any basic song that you want. All I'm basically doing is making a chord chart, looking at the chords in the song, and then putting like the alternating bass with each chord, and then putting the melody on top. But we'll see. I don't know if we'll put that on the Guitareo YouTube channel, but I'll definitely put it on mine and post it on the socials.
Yeah, all the socials and stuff.
But it'll be fun. Yeah. That's what I've been working on.
I think that's a cool idea. I've been neglecting my guitar playing a little bit.
We've been on vacation.
Been on vacation. I've been working on stuff with my band, writing music, doing stuff like that. It's been fun.
When do you have a target date yet?
Just kind of whenever. It's so casual now, which I like. Everybody, we used to have big dreams, you know, when we were younger, and then everyone kind of like grew up and we got
Anybody
married
got time for that?
and all that kind of stuff. And so it's like, you know what? Let's just like have fun, do things when we can.
Yeah.
And so we're working on new stuff, and probably next year or something we'll have something up. But we're in no rush.
Cool.
Trying to do a lot of it ourselves this time, which is fun.
That's
So,
a fun experience.
yeah, doing a lot of the recording and stuff ourselves. Just waiting for, Daryl said he sent a question into the inbox, but it didn't come through, so I'm gonna let him.
This is a good experiment.
to see
how long
how
it
the
actually
delay.
takes.
Yeah.
Because I know it's got to be at least 3 minutes. Sometimes.
Yeah, it does seem
to be pretty
fairly long. So once he sends it in, we'll be good. But.
I don't even know it came in C minor.
C minor. It's a B flat minor.
Oh, I saw your finger down there. I assumed it was an F. B flat minor.
No, F major.
What is that?
G minor. I'll call him out.
I'll shut my eyes and you call them out.
Okay. B flat major.
Maybe I'll close my eyes.
E minor. D minor.
D minor. What's that?
E minor.
I'm not even.
I went
paying,
back.
I'm like totally not paying attention.
So what are you doing? Are you doing arpeggios then? Is that what you were doing there? Ah, okay, that's cool.
Because like this is a really good discussion for the improvisation thing that Holger put in the forum. It's like I understand I'm supposed to memorize triad locations and things like that, but those aren't the notes that I want to play in my solos. I'm like, well, whether you know it or not, they probably are, at least most of them, because the problem is like when you have a melody going by, the chords are changing so quickly that you're probably hitting just a couple of notes, or if the chords are going by slowly, more than a couple notes over the chords over which you're playing, most of those notes are probably going to be chord tones. Like that wasn't very melodic. That was more of an improvisation.
Yeah.
Like do just 2 chords, and I'll do more of a melodic thing.
I go to C.
Sorry about that. So I was a little bit more melodic, and I was totally thinking about, okay, I know there's a G and a C coming up. Okay, there is a G right here, and I know that there's the 3rd and the 5th. So I can hear something in my mind's ear, and then I know the G's right here. If I want to hear the 2nd, I can go here. If I want to hear the 4th, or the 3rd, I can go here. 4th.
Yep.
Not the
Right.
flat 7, the regular 7.
Do it.
But that's the whole point of that aspect of improvising, is as far as memorizing triads and stuff, is to give yourself kind of a home base for any chord over which you're playing. And I like as you're doing those random chords, I was not thinking about a key at all.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't in a key.
The perfect, because sometimes you can't rely on that.
No.
Sometimes music is diatonic, and you can rely, oh, I hear it going to the 4 chord or
Yes.
whatever. Sometimes you're like, what the heck just happened? And you have to be like, oh, it's that chord. Bam. I got what I need. I can play by ear, and I have my little home bass notes.
See, that's where I fall apart. So like we've talked about before, I don't think about triads.
Yep.
I don't think about any of that stuff. I have a master scale shape in my head, and I just move it around and play inside of that and use my ear. But as soon as someone starts playing like non-diatonic stuff, I like, I'm like,
what's going on?
stop, and I'm like, one note, Andrew. I'm like,
It's and like if I see a chord on a sheet, I'm like, oh crap, B flat, okay.
which, right. So see, if I knew that, that would then get me out of those ruts. But
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't know.
And like, and the point I'm at is like, I have to get where I can be melodic doing that,
For sure.
instead of just like reacting to like what chord is coming up, right? So
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so these 2 other questions came through, so we'll grab those. Let's see. Daryl, do you prefer the 3-note per string or cage systems?
if I could only pick one, I'd pick the cage system because of what we were just talking about, playing over chords. Now, I use the 3-note per string system all the time because I love rock. And I love fast licks and things like that. And to me, it's really good for getting one place to another on the fretboard. But like what I just played was really scalar, and it can get a lot of players kind of pigeonholed into that sound or way of thinking. But it depends what style of music you're playing. If you're playing like prog metal or rock or something, that might be what you want. So
For sure. I use neither, but I always recommend the caged. I basically use the string pair shapes to an extent, and I use that as my navigation tool. Because we talked about this, I think, a couple weeks ago. And so basically, like when I'm playing inside, like this is C. Or sorry, it's G. I use those top strings. So I can see the map the whole way along because those top strings, the patterns that are on each of them, just give me my roadmap. So I guess that's a version of the 3-note per string, kind of. And then one other, the caged will make you sound usually a little bit more melodic. He asked why.
It's easier to, if somebody throws a chord progression in front of you and says, here, play a great solo over this, it's way easier to do that with the cage system than it is with the 3-note per string system if like you're relying on one of them exclusively.
Right.
I think so.
Right, that makes sense. So the last question here, we'll wrap it up with this one. Beechnut asked, can you show some sliding from the 12th to 14th fret fast a few times using the G and B strings?
12th to 14th fret? I assume we're talking about both of them at the same time?
Yeah, because he said, I'm playing 6 triplets in Layla. I literally can't do it. That's probably what he's trying to do.
Something like that. I wish I could remember that lick right now, but yeah, that's a little bit different because you have a bar hanging up. There's more resistance, right?
Yeah. That's pretty good.
My thumb is stationary there.
It is.
I think part of that's just because my guitar is coming up against the heel of the guitar. Let me move it down and see what happens. Yeah, the thumb moves. Nope, stays the same.
Mostly stays, yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly staying the same, just pivoting.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that, but it's mostly just doing like that. I don't know if that's good or bad, but here's... I find that harder if it's not anchored.
Right. Yeah, interesting.
So doing that over and over again multiple times a day, I think is one big key to it. Just slow it. Or up here. And like feeling how that feels right there and remembering that, I think is a big key to getting it down. And that feels different than that, right? So.
Yeah, that's good. Don't worry about being slow at it for a while, because that's actually a pretty tough part. Like just what you were doing there, like it took you a little bit to even get it.
It's like,
yeah,
and it's like now I'm like, I wish I would have changed my strings because they're a little dry up here. So.
Oh, I see what he's. Okay, it's 12 and 14 on the G and
12.
That sounds maybe here. I don't have enough fret. I don't know.
Like that?
It's something like that. It sounds like I'm making horror music.
That's nasty. Yeah. Well, regardless, like no matter what it is, I wish I could remember the lick. Like even that.
Yeah.
When I'm doing that, I'm being really conscious of keeping my fingers kind of locked and just swiveling it. Because the distance between my fingers needs to be relatively the same when I slide it. Something like that.
If this didn't help exactly like how you were hoping it would, feel free to send in a video of yourself doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
Just even a close-up with your phone or whatever, and we can take a look at it and give you some pointers to help. Okay, that's gonna do it, I think. There's no more questions. We haven't missed anything.
Cool.
Do you want? We should play a little. I want to play a little thing out. I don't know what to play. Do you have any ideas?
I've done used all my ideas for the day.
Okay. Let me stall for a minute. Okay, I'm gonna get you can just play along to what I play.
Okay.
And I'll just play some chords, and that'll be it.